I am going to stay away from scrolling short form content this year. And because I'm an all or nothing person who is horrible with moderation, that means no going on Instagram at all. Even though there's some good content out there and I have connected with really great people on Instagram, lately the cons have been outweighing the pros. It's gotten too hard to control what I consume, the algorithm is too powerful, and I don't like how much of the content feels like ads, or how polished and put together everyone else seems. As much as I try not to compare myself, after I've doom scrolled for hours, my brain is mush and my defenses are down, so the imposter syndrome and anxiety are free to seep right in. To keep myself from reaching for my phone constantly, I am keeping sketching supplies everywhere I'll be. The sketchbook I'm showing in this video is one that I made by hand. The idea was that if it was going to compete with the quick release of dopamine from social media, it had to feel new and special. And the less scrolling, more scrawling sticker from Made by Reb was perfect for the purpose of this sketchbook. This sketchbook and a single green colored pencil sits by my chair in the living room where I spend a lot of my relaxation time. Whenever I have a moment of downtime where my hands are itching for something to do, I've been filling it with quick sketches of my surroundings, which oftentimes ends up being a cat. And even when my cats are napping, they are constantly moving, stretching into a new position or moving their ears, so that has pushed me to capture their figures more quickly, a skill I look forward to developing. For this year-ish, I'm going to be changing up my art practice in a way that is not so new. I mean, really, it was the way of things before we had the world at our fingertips all the time. But it will be new for me. I'm going to be making my art from life only, which means I won't be using any reference photos for sketching or finished work, not even photos I've taken myself. I think that reference photos are a great tool, and I'm not saying that anyone else should feel that they need to stop using them. I have improved a lot in the past year thanks to reference photos. So why would I stop? In 2024, most of my finished work that I actually liked came from either my imagination or only loosely using references for anatomy. When I worked from a photo for a portrait or landscape, I would end up getting too tight and too focused on individual details, and then overworking them to the point of frustration. That's the main reason I want to work without references, at least until I get out of the habit of obsessing over little details. I really enjoy sharing what I've learned with others and look forward to sharing this process throughout the year on my channel. But I never want to come off as having things figured out or like I think my way is the best. By all means, if you ever want to try something I've shared, I won't stop you and would love to hear about it. I've just been feeling sensitive lately about the clickbait in thumbnails and titles, especially ones claiming something will change your life or can give you years of experience in a short amount of time. I don't want my videos to feel like that. I always think you should do what works best for you, just as I am experimenting with what will work best for me. I do well with some level of structure and guidelines, but I'm also open to changing and improving things as needed. I hesitate to call this a challenge because it's not about proving to myself that I can be disciplined. There are no strict deadlines, and I do not want to feel overwhelmed. On the contrary, I think this will actually simplify a lot of the decisions and analysis paralysis I'm usually faced with when I want to paint, but don't necessarily know what to paint. I think limiting my options will actually help keep me interested. I'm feeling pretty laid back and okay with going slow this year. I've already come up with different bits and pieces I can do depending on my mood that will eventually all funnel into finished work at some point. For example, on the day I filmed this, I wanted to use up some leftover gouache left on a palette from the day before, so I used the sketches I had already made as inspiration. On another day, I was running errands about an hour away in a direction I never go. I wanted to make the most of the trip without taking up too much time, so I brought a few supplies and found a nearby park. I used my view catcher to play with composition and used my watercolors to take color notes. And another day I worked from that to refine the mixes I would use to get those colors if I do want to make a finished piece. I found a few moments the next day to play around with brushes and the strokes they could make to experiment with how I could paint certain features of that landscape. I don't remember where I heard this advice, maybe Creative Pep Talk or in one of the Austin Kleon books, but to keep momentum on a bigger or more long-term project, you just have to touch it each day. meaning visit part of the project every day, even if you only have 5 minutes. Over the holidays, I was spending more time with family than I was in the studio. I also sprained my ankle in November, right as I was starting to get my yard cleaned up and ready for planting in the spring. So now that I'm mobile again, I'm catching up on that. Most days have not been big art days. I don't always have hours to paint, but I still want to do something creative. I've been able to incorporate working from life in quick and simple ways. I think this is a more realistic approach than I have aimed for in the past. I really want to focus more on enjoying the process and less on the expectations of the outcome. I'm going into my 4th year of painting. Last year, I got confident enough in my skills that I put myself out there for some opportunities. For the first, I reached out to someone to do an art trade. We left it sort of open-ended for a while, so I worked on a painting that I thought she would like, but I put too much pressure on it and restarted it twice, and then never finished it because in the end, she picked a painting I had already done. The other time was the painting from my last video. The opportunity came up to apply to be included in a gallery showing. I had nothing already done that I wanted to enter. Some personal things came up and I wasn't sure I'd have time to make anything for the show. Then the last day before applications were due, I did that landscape painting. I wasn't happy with it, but I was out of time and I wanted to enter. It was accepted, but I still wasn't happy with the piece. Oh, and then I also sort of last minute painted a portrait as a birthday gift for a family member. The night before I was going to be giving the gift, I took it out of the frame and reworked the nose and felt like I ruined it. So I repainted the whole thing the next morning and ended up wishing I hadn't changed the first attempt. I think I just put too much pressure on myself to make something dedicated to a specific purpose. This year I'm just going to paint for me, and I'll only apply for anything if the right thing comes along for work that is already finished. Okay, I'm an introvert and most of my dialogue happens inside my head. It's been hard to get this many thoughts to come out of my mouth. I hope that this gets easier over time as I make more videos, but for now I'm going to put on some music and let you watch the rest of the video. Let me know in the comments if you're trying a new approach to something this year.